Now this is buffer time. Respect.
What is buffer time? Is what buffer time?
It's Monday again, Buffer Timers, and we're here to talk to you about the best exotic Nanite hotel from Lower Decks. But before we get into that, let's go around and introduce ourselves. I'm Dustin from Best of Trek, Worst of Trek.
I'm Ren from Ren Rants.
My name is Vanessa, and I run a YouTube channel called I Love That Star Trek.
And my name is Gary Guy Grabber, and you can find me on Windgrace Project.
All right, and Scott from Opinions No One Cares About will be with us in a little bit. So before we get into the episode, I think the only piece of news that I've seen this week is that Nana Visitor has brought out this book, Star Trek, A Woman's Trek.
I'm intrigued. But the real question is it Nana or Nana?
Nana.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know a heck of a lot about it other than that, so I guess we can just get into the episode proper. We don't have a ton of questions this week. We all thought it was pretty good. I guess let's talk about this random admiral. Why are random guests helping this admiral?
So I can't remember where I saw it. It might have been Trek Culture or something, where they were saying it was like they were treating it as an immersive experience, like that was like a Ren Fest or something. They thought they were part of an experience. It wasn't a real turnabout intruder or anything.
So I've been watching. I'm finally getting around to watching Jenny Nicholson's video about that immersive Star Wars hotel. Is this like kind of a dig at that?
That's a good thought. I did watch that, and that is a long slog to get through, and it's pretty good. Wow, they mismanaged a pretty cool idea.
I would go to a Trek one.
I also think it has something to do with. Yeah, I would also go to a Trek one. There have been like Trek themed rides, of course, but never like a full hotel. And I guess from the Star Wars when they would know what not to do, right? Voyager documentary premiere tonight.
That sounds pretty good, Norman. Good for you.
Have a blast.
Yeah. Also, I think there's an obvious through line with Apocalypse Now with the Admiral and this whole plot. And in Apocalypse Now, Marlon Brando's character has like a whole group of folks from the area or expats sort of manning his like cult camp. So I think that's just part of it. And I like that they're just sort of like random hotel guests. And they're just like, yeah, at the end, they're like, yeah, I just want to go back to the buffet. And this isn't the experience I signed up for. And like, yeah, so it's like a bit of both, like an immersive experience and also like just being led by a charismatic leader.
I like that. I hadn't thought about an immersive experience, but that is like, I think that just might be a dig at that. Because otherwise it's kind of weird.
A little bit. But we do
and
get
it's definitely Apocalypse Now, for sure.
Also, if you go to like an all-inclusive resort, it kind of becomes its own mini society because you don't have to leave. All of your needs are sort of attended to on site. And so you sort of like glom on amebically to different groups of people and become your own little clique. So I could see this, like, this is an obviously extreme example, but you just sort of like, because everybody's schedule is relatively the same, going to the same activities. Hi, Scott. Like, I could see like that, like this is a real extreme example, but I could see this happening. Cruise ships too. Yes, Heart of Darkness. Yes.
Yeah, speaking of this being a cruise ship, Scott had the question about why a moon-sized resort and not just a resort on a moon.
Well,
So
they can't brag about the moon-sized resort if it's just a moon.
Yeah, that's what I was kind of thinking. I think it's like it's a because we can kind of thing.
So I got the
Oh,
impression that
Tickler's
it
not
was
running the right way.
mobile. Is that not the case? Like, wasn't it a space cruise ship also that went from location to location, or was that a different aspect of it?
Yeah, I think that's it. And Scott, you're putting them in banner and not ticker. That's why.
Oh, that makes a lot of sense.
I didn't even
All right,
realize
right.
this was a different feature.
Me
We're
either.
learning some things. Yeah, I think it's definitely one of those like, all right, well, we can build this bigger, so why not? And I guess it's the difference between like going to an island and going to a bunch of islands.
Well, similar to the Star Wars experience, it's not an actual ship and it's stationary. It's just in one place. It's just a very large building. So it's that same, like, it's a flex to call a building a moon, I guess.
It's the difference between going to an island or being Dubai and just building an island. Yes.
Let's go to that hotel that's clearly a small moon and nothing else.
I love that nothing has ever become of those islands that they put down like 15 years ago now.
Oof. Woof.
Yes, Norman. Why not Risa? Kind of glad it wasn't though. I like another example.
Yeah, there's
the
got to be
Federation-
somewhere else to
I
go
think I
for
said that.
vacations.
Because the Federation doesn't have enough leisure planets and places.
And Worf hasn't turned the weather off on this one yet, so it's one extra point.
Yeah, and I hadn't thought about it until just today, kind of doing a partial rewatch. Whereas, like, is this admiral supposed to have to? Does he have overtones of the like cult leader from "Let He Who Without Sin Is Without Sin" in that episode with Worf on Risa?
Well, again, I really think it's drawing on Apocalypse Now, except it's inverting it because the gentleman from that movie was talking about the horrors that he's seen and that it changed him. And with this, it's the opposite. It's boredom that changes him into this leader. But it's like that's not much of a cohesive philosophy.
You can only milk so many space whales.
What do they
was
do with the milk?
One would presume that you feed like orphaned other space whales. I find that to be a great joke. I love it so much. It's so lower decks that we've now met the lower decks admiral. We've met plenty of admirals, and some of them have been okay. Some of them have been bad admirals, but this is the first one that's like, this is the lower decks admiral.
Right.
I also love how treacherous the journey was to get to him when he was just hanging out on the resort. Like, it's just really silly. Again, like, hate to bring it up again, but that movie, Apocalypse Now, like, they're going down that river and have to deal with many, many things, and this dude's just laying there waiting for him.
Do you think this admiral is meant to embody Boimler later in life, and it's supposed to be like a meeting for Boimler to like maybe change his path or something like that?
Good old cautionary tale. I think he's definitely something of a foil to Boimler. I do think that Boimler at least is less likely to be destined for whale milking, but we'll see.
Maybe it's Boimler if you remove his friends or his support network.
That's a good
Yeah,
thought.
someone to give him a reality check.
I don't know, because like Boimler is rather delighted to do rather banal things over and over again. Like when he heard about the whale milking, he was like, "Ooh, is it this kind of whale or that kind of whale?"
Yeah,
like,
true.
So I there's a bit of like dialogue towards the end where it's like Boimler patted himself on the back for actually getting this admiral jazzed about
Admiral.
again. So I think it was more like, that just like I can't think of a bigger Starfleet cheerleader, honestly, in Trek than Boimler. So
You're not wrong.
He's literally all about it.
Mm-hmm.
It's really cute. Yeah, I kind of agree. I think no matter what task you gave him, he would be happy to be doing it as long as he could rationalize himself, like the importance of it in some way.
Well, maybe that's what happened to the Admiral, as he went in gung-ho 40 years ago to milk the whales, and he was so good at it, they're like, we'll just keep you there forever. You're Admiral of milking things now.
I mean, if you got to milk new things periodically, I'm sure it would at least be interesting.
To seek out new life and new things to milk.
What's that thing from Meet the Fockers? If it has teeth, you can milk it or whatever.
Oh my god.
I have nipples, Greg. Can you milk me? I feel like that's a good segue into, is Gilbert Manhandle the best goddamn undercover name ever?
Excellent.
That's what I want this this TrekCom spinoff to be. Just Gilbert Manhandle, PI or something.
anything to keep that shirt open, like.
I do like that the two outfits in Star Trek for men are onesie or deep V-neck.
You're not wrong. Men's fashion in Star Trek is just, it's some really bizarre choices from the wardrobe.
I mean, it is kind of giving Riker on Angel One.
It is.
Oh, wow, it really is.
In all like 90s Trek, they're like, what is the fabric of the future? Polyester.
Oh god. No poly cotton ones around here.
Yeah, I thought that was a really good joke. So Scott, you had this question, and I'm not quite sure what you meant by it, but did something happen to Jet? Because they did tell us what happened to Jet in the episode.
I know, I just feel like before like this episode in particular, he was like a better officer and more gung-ho. Like calling back to, say, Crisis Point, I know that was all taking place on the holodeck, but it's supposed to be an accurate representation of everybody. And there's a bit where Boimler wants to give the captain chocolate, and Jet takes him down like nothing. So it kind of seems like he's a pretty competent officer, and now he's just freaking out because he lost his hands. I mean, Doc's gonna wave a light over it. He's gonna get his hands back.
Okay, but to be fair, even if you could get them back, I do think losing your hands would still be like alarming and traumatizing.
Yeah, I mean, like that is an alarming thing to see. And again, it's like, in military organizations, you are kind of chum for the grinder, and it is nice that they remind you of that there is a measure of expendability in being part of an organization like this.
Real Starship Troopers energy.
God, that's a movie that we should maybe just review on this channel at some point. Because next year, man, it doesn't sound like we've got a lot of Star Trek coming next year. There's Section 31, and there's Strange New Worlds, and yeah.
Boo.
Well, great.
I kind of agree with Norman. I did pick up on a bit of like a strange masculine expectations kind of vibe in here, because when you look at the folks that were running the mission, I keep forgetting their names, I'm sorry, and their build And the fact that their shirts were open, and you look at Boimler and his build, they even comment on it, saying the wiry guy.
Always need a wiry guy.
And it's like this straight, but like, and his beard isn't coming in quite as solidly. There's like a very like,
Give it
he's
time.
not as manly as his superiors are. So yeah, I don't know. Like, it seems as if this episode was him wrestling with that a little bit, like how his masculinity fits in the scheme of things.
Speaking of which, bearded Boimler, yeah or nah?
He's too sexy for me. It's like the bearded Vulcans and Romulans where I'm like, this is a great look, but
It's like Mirror Universe Spock.
yeah, too hot.
I think there's going to be like a twist, and we're going to find out the beard in the alternate universe wasn't real. He was wearing like a wig the whole time.
I
That's
want
really
that so
cool.
bad now. I hope you're right. That's so good.
After we go a whole season of ours growing a patchy thing that doesn't look good.
I mean, we
Right.
definitely
I mean,
need
That
to
actually-
come back to William Boimler, and I figure he would have a beard in Section 31. Go ahead, Vanessa.
Because I was just gonna say, like, it's really fascinating how like men coded or male coded folks discuss each other's beard. The fact that it doesn't like get sparse and it doesn't connect, like, these are things that don't even enter my head. So I just see somebody like trying to grow it in, but I do notice that it is not nearly as full as his Mirrorverse counterpart, and I wonder if that's on purpose. Because like, you look at the 5 o'clock shadow of the XO versus him,
yeah.
Beardler.
Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty on the fence. I mean, we've seen it this season, so we know what it looks like on the alternate version. I don't know that it's like Riker changing. Like, oh man, season 1 Riker and season 2 Riker, they are entirely different animals.
Mm-hmm.
like, did you hear about how they negotiated how much beard he would have? Like, they
No.
were
Yep.
like wanting him to adjust it according to like the average percentage taken from everybody in a boardroom. Like, it was very
That's
like
wild.
really so corporate that it's almost incomprehensible, but how they police body
Wow.
hair. But
I think this is just a stepping stone, though, because can somebody just share some shots on Discord of the next episode? And Brad's got a mustache. It's kind of lame looking. Almost looks like, he just got something on his face, but it's clearly, his mustache is grown in, if not the rest of his facial hair.
Maybe the beard's gonna come along.
Could be. Well, it's kind of what they did in Breaking Bad. When he first grew the mustache, it was like weak until he went like full Heisenberg. Then he's like, all right, I'm going to fill this out now. So maybe he has to break Boim or something to really get there.
Break boy.
Breaking Boims.
I was just thinking about like the time Data grew a beard though, and that no, it didn't really work. And I don't know that Brad's is as bad as that, but yeah, I guess we'll see. We'll see what he does with it and what it does for him.
cute. I think it looks cute. But it doesn't give him the intended effect of looking more like, authoritative.
And you got to give it time.
I'm mad he
Plus
didn't
they
have
have
any
some
more
little-
pointers, though. I feel like that should have been a running thing,
yeah.
too.
I do see Norman's point though about this possibly being a season 1 thing, because it's like, shouldn't he have the confidence at this point, because he's been promoted and stuff? Like, he's been working so hard, he's wanted this promotion so bad. Like, aren't we a little like past that?
I guess the difference now is...
Ones too. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, that's okay. I was just going to mumble on about something unimportant.
I mean, same.
I think it's slightly different, though. just in the way they perceive him, which is the real growth, I guess, is now he has to come to terms with they actually view him as being competent because he's earned it, as opposed to in the beginning he wanted to feel like he was competent and they didn't necessarily think that of him because he hadn't proven himself yet.
That's a really good point.
I feel like at this point in history, they'd have like a follicle stimulator or something. You can wave a light over everything else. You can just like grow yourself a beard. But he's deciding to do it, au naturel, because that's what Brad would do.
Maybe it's like weightlifting where you ask people, is it natural or are you juicing or whatever? And there's some sort of merit gain from doing it naturally. I don't know.
Maybe it's Maybelline.
Most likely.
Now, before we get completely away from that storyline, the only question I had left is, if you're a Cretacean and you're hanging around a bar, are you just like setting yourself up to play the victim?
That's a really good point. What were they doing there?
The only worst place would have been like a Golden Corral or some sort of buffet.
There's a lot of places in public and an all-inclusive resort that are off limits to you if eating in public scandalizes you for sure.
And I guess I should just ask the question to somebody else besides Open Space, because in my last couple of videos, I have literally asked once before I even knew that this was going to come up in this video that, is it fetish material? Do you think there's like underground fetish material on the Cretacean homeworld where it's just like people eating food?
Absolutely.
Mukbang has a whole new meaning.
Oh my god!
It's like that Voyager episode where they were stealing violent thoughts and trading them on the underground market.
Mm-hmm.
Except it's just a guy eating like mashed potatoes.
I just have to wonder, like, how many other diplomatic snafus turn out to be like a fetish for some other alien? Like, some benign human gesture is like, oh my god, that's so dirty, and it's something you have to pay for on their home planet, like OnlyFans or something. It's like
Let's go on vacation to the Federation.
That dude Brad latched onto on the ski slope. You can't pat his species on the back. That's foreplay.
Or I was gonna say, or you can.
That was pretty fun. Also, a lot of fun getting to finally see the Galamites, which were brought up so many times in DS9 and never seen until now.
Is this the kind of alien that Dax had like dinner with? And
He kept trying to set Kira up with Captain Baudet.
Right. Okay.
That recontextualizes a lot of stuff.
So one of them's a home.
Yeah, they kept talking about the transparent skulls. They didn't say anything about the teeth.
Well, I think they said they have a toothy smile or a toothy grin, which I just took to mean as like a transparent. They could see the teeth through the skin. I didn't think they'd be like weird bug lizards or whatever. But.
Yeah, I didn't get that either. But nope, different. When your budget for one creature over another in the animation, you might as well go.
They have the open shirts too, though. I do like that.
Standard uniform for everyone for the resort.
All right. Was there anything else in the whole Brad and Admiral and whatever plot before we move on to the other plot?
I thought the funniest part of this was when Boimler doused himself in sunscreen and slipped out of that one guy's, grip. That was hilarious.
That is actually what I wanted to bring up. Did I miss something with the sunscreen? Because they made the point of saying you don't need it, even though Brad was putting it on, and then this guy clearly burnt himself.
Yeah,
I was thinking that because he was putting it on too, like inside there when him and Brad first met.
So unless he chose this look, he wanted to look burnt. I don't know.
It's like a way of signaling that they are embracing the full beach bum persona. That's that's how I think it's just really silly. And again, like the movie, Marlon Brando's character is like trying to convince him of his reality and everything, and that was just a way to sort of shorthandedly show like allegiance, sort of like face paint.
Mm-hmm. I did kind of notice how that mountain that's behind Dustin really looked a lot like the Paramount logo.
Oh, for sure.
No. Well, it's not the Black Mountain.
Is it the one that Patrick Stewart threw? Who did Hey Arnold, in the Super Bowl commercial?
That was pretty fun.
Right
I like
into it.
that.
Great.
That was such
All
a
right.
super dream.
That was great because it led to like this awesome publicity shot of Captain Pike and Lieutenant Dangle from Reno 911.
Captain Pike, a name that we won't be saying with much fondness coming up, I don't think,
Yeah.
in season 3. I won't get into it too much for anybody that doesn't know, but yeah, Anson Mount's not the nicest guy if you look him up on X. Let's just leave it at that.
Like it's Anson Mount, like Captain Pike, the character. I don't have like, yeah.
Yeah. But it's hard to wholeheartedly praise him when you know that he's being played by such a douche.
Yeah, for real.
Yeah, making Robert Beltran look like a saint right now. All right.
Truly, the like bar has been like lowered considerably.
Speaking of lowered bars, I only actually have one question, but I think this ought to open up a lot here for the other plot going on. Is Jen way off base in how she's engaging Mariner about their relationship?
Yes! Oh, this made me so mad. She was so full of it. Like, what the hell? Are you seriously kidding me? Like, she didn't communicate at all either. Like, it was very,
Right.
like, it's very weird to be like, you phased me out, never give me, it's like, you didn't try. You didn't try. Not once did we see you try. Like, what are you talking about? Like, both of you have mouths and could use them to talk. Like, why is this all on Mariner? Like, and she's the one who was like screwed over in the first place. So it's like, are you serious? It made me so mad.
It rang to me like the kind of thing a much younger person would do.
Oh yeah.
It was like a really super immature way of handling it, but it was like mutually immature, so I could buy it more. Like one was avoiding having a difficult conversation, and the other just was like willing to play the long game just to fuck with Mariner on this one specific mission. So it's like they're both kind of incriminated, and I kind of enjoyed it for that reason, that no one has the moral high ground here.
I'd be more inclined to agree if she had done this, like, I don't know, like a month or two later or something, but waiting a whole entire, like, year and not saying anything and then just, like, doing this is wild. It's just wild. It was funny, though. Like, it was entertaining.
And just, throwing it out there as a parting shot right before she gets transferred.
Yeah,
that's true,
like,
yeah.
Okay, yeah, live long and prosper. I really liked coming back to it, especially when they announced like, oh hey, we're finally gonna get some closure between Mariner and Jen. Wonderful. But yeah, the way Jen just throws herself at Mariner in this just extremely weird way just to fuck with her and for nothing else. That is like that classic crazy ex-girlfriend meme, and it to the extreme.
Yeah, it is.
And it just goes to show that queer relationships can be just as fucked up.
Right.
Weirdness knows no sexuality.
You never know your true feelings till you're stuck in a coconut tree with your ex.
So I'm trying to remember, was she in last season at all, as far as, or was the last time we really saw her when Mariner was leaving 2 seasons ago?
I feel like we may have seen her in the
Good
background,
question.
but I don't remember her like doing anything or being relevant after that point.
Yeah, if it was
Right.
anywhere, it was like one scene in the bar or something.
I was really
Like,
simmering for a while.
Yeah, because Jen, like they referenced a few times the very last time they saw each other, which was when Mariner was getting carted off to Starbase 80. So, no, not in a major way.
yeah, I mean, how can there be really any ambiguity there? Like, you abandon her and wouldn't even let Mariner explain at all, and just left her at her lowest, and
Also,
you expect there to need some closure?
it's
Go ahead, Ren.
weird to be like, I was dating you
Completely
because you were bad, but then to abandon her because she was bad. Like, make up your mind, Jen.
That again, it's like, you know, it's honest. It's stupid, but it's honest.
Yeah.
Like I could see some really emotionally immature people have that kind of algebra in their head where it's like, well, I thought you were bad, so I just assume you did the bad thing. Like that makes sense. Like it's not good reasoning. It's not like the best writing either, but I could see a messy ass relationship end up like that. And honestly, like Star Trek's relationships are typically so sterile and so like, you know, meeting of the minds kind of thing, except for maybe like Tom Paris or something. But like for the most part, it's like even with Pike and his girlfriend, it was like very
Measured.
Yeah, it was very measured, very calculated. And it's like it would be great to see a relationship where it's like they just fell out of favor, they just lost touch, and they're just like randomly avoiding each other. And even though they work on the same ship, that's funny to me.
No, I like that too. It wasn't just they didn't sit down at the bar and say, I think we need to go our separate ways. I concur.
But they could have done like the faux Bajoran thing, like
and they were on
yeah,
vacation.
Bashir and
Yep.
what's her name?
Lita.
Lita, yeah.
Lita, yeah.
Yeah,
And just walk around with double horgons.
this sort of like conscious uncoupling, but make it Bajoran, where they like break the plate. It's so corny.
Very enlightened culture.
Well, that took place on a tropical resort as well, so I guess there is precedent.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's what I was thinking.
honestly, like at least it formalizes it. Like I admired it for that. Like it was super corny where they're like facing away from each other. It's so stupid, but like it ritualizes it so that there's like a definitive ending. Unlike this, so it's like it's bizarro version of that, going somewhere to break up.
Yeah, I don't have too much else to say on it. It's just like it's all Jen's fault. Jen could have handled it better to begin with, or at any time before now. Not wait until the last minute so she'd be like, yeah, I just wanted to see where we're at. Bye.
Yeah, she was just, I don't know, a little bit self-righteous, all things considered. Like, girl, like, you are not the wronged party here, like, between the two of you. Like, Mariner, like, definitely could have, I guess, been more explicit and mature, but, like, also, I don't know, not standing up for your partner and then being surprised when your partner doesn't, like, talk to you again kind of makes sense. Or doesn't make sense.
So being that this is the last season, do we want to see them again? Do we want her to come back into the story at all? Or is this it? Do we not want to see any more
Only if it's just the only thing I guess maybe expect is one of those things like at the end of I think it was season 3 with the Alito and all this, and like all of the Cali class ships show up, and you'd be like, but in, like the was it the Manitoba that she's going to?
Mm-hmm.
You know, have her show up in just like one scene where she's in there, and boom, that's it. That's all I'd want.
I hate to have a hetero ship, but I honestly would not be mad if like something friendly happened between Mariner and Ransom. They just
Yeah,
had
that's-
really good chemistry the couple of times that they've like tiptoed up to it.
Well, he's got a long-term girlfriend. He hasn't broken up with yet.
Oh, that's right.
Sure, Olivia.
So they have to get that out of the way.
Well,
I don't
never
think-
mind.
I don't
Or
think
a throuple.
I don't think Jen was like interesting enough to feature heavily outside of being Mariner's girlfriend, honestly. Like they just didn't really build out her character enough. Like she's entertaining to watch, but it's not like a Tendi or Rutherford or, you know, somebody that you would really want to see more than once. So
Yeah.
If they want to occasionally run into each other and jokingly be like, "Hey, babe," that's cool.
Oh, that would be cute.
Anything else from that plot? Because I didn't even have anything else specific. The nanite thing, like, yeah, great. Like, we've got a D20 and things happened, I guess.
It
What
was
about the
fun.
vibe tubes?
Vibe tubes.
Coming back from a deep cut in, was it TNG?
yeah, I remember on last night in Paris or something. It's a TNG thing. There was last night in Paris, right? There was a guy in the French cafe playing that. It was so random.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
I was wondering if that was from somewhere, but I couldn't place
We'll
it.
always have
All right.
Paris. That's the
It's just like a guy walking by with some weird thing.
Mm-hmm. Right. It was so like random and little, like it's weird that they would center an entire plot around that. But that's Lower Decks in a nutshell. I'm intrigued with the like. I wish they explored this thing between the Vulcan and the pipe player a bit more, because he was like fangirling. I mean, as much as a Vulcan can.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You know, learned a new word, propinquity. It just means closeness. So she was excited about him being nearby. So it was like, whoa, Beatlemania.
It was really cute.
I wasn't sure if this was supposed to be a reference to the cut rock monsters from Star Trek V, but hadn't we already seen them somewhere in Lower Decks? And they were smaller?
I just saw this. It was
I might be
theorized.
wrong.
What was it?
I know Trek Culture was like, it might be a reference to that, but we can't be sure. And like,
Yeah.
I was like, I thought we had already seen them, but they were like much smaller.
The bar in the Andorian district in Envoys, when Boimler starts that big bar fight, there's a couple of, for better word, aliens there that look like Krug, but they're like lighter in color and probably not drawn exactly the same, but kind of the same basic shape.
I thought it might have been a relative of Rotok from Prodigy.
Oh, rocked.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Oh,
That'd be cool.
That's a good thought. Yeah, the idea of a Vulcan fangirling is that's fun to see. I like how they're like just finding the weird little quirks that would like, all right, well, what would be juxtaposed to this race? And it works. It's a good joke.
I'm surprised they didn't make any D20
oh yeah.
references at all.
Right.
Especially
that
when they were
got
playing with one.
Icosahedron.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, like, they made sure they got the proper name of it in there twice, but no
Yeah,
mention of
they
the
had a D20 in, what is it, Binox and Batlets? Is that the name of the game?
Batlets and Banachs.
Yeah. I thought it was going to be the thing from the Kelvin episode of TOS.
I think those were 12-sided.
Were they? I didn't count. But
Well, I was trying to figure it out because like I did this summary of that episode, and then I asked my kid who plays D&D, I was like, what do they use a 12-sided die for?
Not much. Usually big weapons like axes and stuff, and that's
Yeah.
about it. Yeah, so the only other thing from that... Go ahead, Vanessa.
I was just gonna say, what would a D20 typically be used for? Because I haven't used a die that big.
D20s are used for a lot of things in a lot of role-playing games. It's usually like your base like 2-hit, or like, you know, you want to do something and you're rolling against your skill and you roll against that.
initiative.
Mm-hmm.
That's the
Yeah,
main
they're used
one.
for a lot of stuff in a lot of games. 12s are weird. They really usually aren't used for much. Most games don't even have them. Modern ones that I've seen, anyway. Yeah, so the only other thing in this is like the nanites, and we had the question, how did the Endeavor start doing what they did with the nanites?
I know that sounds weird, but it's like a matter of scale because, you know, in this universe, they're nanites, but, you know, the Endeavor is microscopically small, so you have to assume it almost seems like they're even smaller than that. And, like, what are those, like micro nanites? I don't even know. That's like a nanite. And it seems like they must have had like just so many of them to just build up to a point where we could see them, and then for them to have enough to be feeding on this entire resort. Cool craft work.
Yeah, that is pretty awesome, Melanie.
Yeah, I'm not sure how to quantify that. I mean, it's just they're just smaller. I mean, it's like I guess kind of like the episode of DS9 where Dax, one little ship where Dax and Bashir and O'Brien got smaller for fun.
Mm-hmm.
So I wonder, like, what was their goal? Had they not been interfaced by the crew of the Cerritos? Like, what was their goal? Just to build up nanites and get bigger and bigger, and then what? Like, what? That was that. I don't.
I was
didn't-
wondering that too. Just to get somebody to pay attention to you, or yeah, I don't know. That is a really good question.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to say.
I know originally they were trying to reopen the rift, but I don't see how getting bigger would help with that.
Like, I would think if their goal was to make contact, they would have just done that directly. I mean, they are small enough where they could just literally fly into a ship, like in the DS9 episode. So it's like this method is very strange.
Yeah,
Maybe
I mean,
they
they're
didn't know
already
where they
inside
were.
a ship here. They're inside the Cosmic Duchess.
Yeah,
For a month
So,
of
yeah,
hell.
I
Weird.
couldn't remember the name
Yeah.
of the first day. Kept thinking Crimson Dawn. That's not right. What is that from?
Like, I would just find it puzzling that they would do this instead of just hooking into like a communications array or something. Like,
Yeah, because clearly they can communicate.
mhm.
Yeah, it doesn't make a lot of sense. It's just something to give our characters something to do,
Yeah.
I guess,
Yes.
while
And
Mariner
also-
and Jen sort it out.
And also, for some reason, this reignites the Admiral's passion in Starfleet, which is really strange.
It's because he's doing something that's not milking space whales. He's done milking the space whales.
It does also
that
beg
was
the question, like, what do admirals do besides be bad or do boring things? Like, what do they do?
I guess that's probably it
That's a good
mostly,
point.
is be bad and do boring things. The usual horrors of high-level bureaucracy.
Call captains and tell them no.
Get in, losers. We're doing boring stuff.
Well, I have to imagine the way he's going to figure out to send the ship home, though, involves milking something.
Oh, go back to episode 1 where Brad Miller, where Brad and the like spider thing that's sucking on him is like, you'll spoil the milk.
See, if that admiral just quit, he would have never been so determined to get these tiny people home.
Maybe his new goal will be to milk the tiny people.
Oh,
Oh
no.
god,
Oh my God.
that's an HR violation.
Do you know how many tiny people it takes to make enough milk to get in a cup of coffee?
Good thing it wasn't Voyager.
No, it's illegal to find out.
Oh, this admiral's weird enough. He's got the time and the patience and the tools.
Man can milk anything if he's determined enough.
Words to live
find
by,
it
truly.
so funny that he's like shell shocked from being inflicted with boring missions. Like it's just so just
PTSD
that he won't even put on sunscreen and become red for whatever reason. Like it's just rattled him so much.
That's a good point.
There was
Also-
some concern there at one point in the episode about how much air they had,
oh, yeah.
so I guess.
But also, why did Tillin have to be the one to play it if he was in there also?
Yeah. I mean, obviously to set her up with him at the end and like have that bonding moment, but
I thought she was bringing the pipes themselves. I don't think he had that.
This is true. There was also a shot earlier where Mariner and Jen tried shooting that energy net. And not only did it not work, it got sucked in and like it looked like it trapped.
Oh, that's right. It
him.
tied him up. Okay,
Oh,
that tracks now. That makes sense. Okay, I don't have any more questions about this episode. You guys have any things before we get to the out of 10?
How do you think this admiral's cult leaders are gonna like act when they reassimilate into like resort life? Like they've been following this guy presumably God knows how long. And it made it seem like they were just like spending an afternoon doing the hobby for a little while. But they were really acting weird.
Especially the Gorn. I found it really weird that he had like a Gorn following him.
Yeah.
Like he tied up Starfleet staff to like a cross like that and held them captive and threatened them. Like that's I guess to make the tiny people go home, all is forgiven.
And just walks back in and reassumes his, just left for however long. Puts his uniform back on. We're good. Let's rock and roll.
Who amongst us hasn't tried to crucify an away team?
And they didn't even read the Constitution.
It just seems like they're not prioritizing mental health or, vacation time or whatever, because like they clearly push someone to the point of cracking.
Which means he needs the program.
So, Windgrace, you had just mentioned the Constitution. I had thought about doing this. Let's go way out in left field and go out of Star Trek. We've got the U.S. election tomorrow. I don't care who you're voting for, vote. Somebody, if you're out there, vote. I don't want to ask you who you're voting for. I want to ask you who you think will win tomorrow.
I sure hope it's not Orange Man. I think Kamala's slightly more likely to win, but we'll see.
I'm just concerned when we're going to find out. How long it's going to take to get any sort of reasonable answer.
It took 5 days the last time at least.
There will be shenanigans, undoubtedly.
Yeah. January 6th shenanigans feels like it could happen regardless of the outcome.
Stop besmirching that day. It's my birthday.
Really?
Yes.
Oh no! Okay, so one good thing happened on January 6th, and then one really annoying thing.
My whole life, I'm like, it's Epiphany.
I hope you have a themed birthday where people have to like break into your house and like use ladders and shit to like come in your house. Please.
Oh yeah, he's gonna wake up and see a noose erected on his lawn.
Yeah.
Oh shit!
The theme of my birthday is I can't post online. I'm celebrating today. Or I'll get taken down.
Yep.
I'm having an average day doing average things.
Yeah,
Definitely
I think it's
not
going to
in
be
DC.
If it
I
makes
think
you
we've got a
feel
close
better, I
one
have the
coming up.
same birthday as
Close.
Ted Bundy, and it annoys me every time I think
Oh.
about it. I was like reading something about him. I looked the Wikipedia article or something, and I saw the date of birth, and I was like,
Okay. And he's back.
We're getting to that witching hour again, aren't we?
Had to go milk something real quick.
My coffee, man.
Yeah, I have 30 some odd good years with no blemishes on my birthday. So
Yeah.
Yeah, I think Kamala will come out on top. I sure hope so, but nothing would surprise me, honestly.
yeah.
Yeah. It'll only take a couple
It's
months.
been
Still
just
doesn't.
like this election cycle. I mean, they're all just out of pocket, but this one we've had multiple assassination attempts. We've had a candidate change. Like if another weird thing happens where Trump wins, that wouldn't surprise me, but
He didn't win last time, so.
not the best outcome. If Kamala wins, that wouldn't surprise me either, but I just think it's mostly kayfabe entertainment. I don't know.
I haven't looked, but I think you'd have to go back to Grover Cleveland to find somebody that won the presidency in a split term.
Yeah.
Like, since the popular vote doesn't mean anything, it's just like hard to like put it on individuals, you know.
Not entirely true. There are a handful of states, unfortunately not nearly enough, who I think have signed on to giving all their electoral votes to the winner of the popular vote. Like, no matter what.
Yeah.
But
All
yeah,
for it,
like I
huh?
said, not enough states.
I live in one of the only 2 states that splits their votes depending on the districts.
Yeah, thanks for that.
Even though I live in that district it's very likely my vote is good for my electoral college rep is going to Trump. But anyway.
I'm a spectator. I'm not a citizen,
Oh,
so I just get to watch
Right.
everything burn, and it's very stressful.
has anyone done early voting yet, or is everyone not done? Okay,
No, I'm going tomorrow.
Yep. And
I have the dentist and voting tomorrow.
All fun things. At least, and you get a sticker out of both.
Ooh.
I want the one some 12-year-old designed in, I think it was Minnesota. Like it says I voted.
Oh
but there's
yeah,
a werewolf on
the
it.
werewolf
I
like
saw that. That's
shooting
awesome.
their walk.
Amazing.
It's like very Team America. Fuck yeah.
All right, let's pull it back to the episode that we're actually talking about. But seriously, everybody,
Let's
go
talk about
vote.
Will
Whatever. Not gonna tell you how to vote, even though there's
Don't
only
vote for Trump.
one side that
Bam.
he's a rapist. You know, that R word that just got us scrubbed from any future views.
Convicted felon.
We're learning so many new words on Sesame Street today, children.
S
So-
is for felon.
Let's do our out of 10s for the best exotic, Nanite Hotel. And I'm going to give her a 7.5. Best of the season so far. I had a lot of fun watching it. There's some really funny moments, especially Gilbert Manhandle. That is one of my favorite things about Billups. And I love that we're getting Billups in every episode. He's usually only in like 3 episodes a season, and he's been in 3 episodes this season with something funny every time. So
He was in one episode twice as 2 Billups.
Mhm.
They know what we want.
Double the Billups, double the fun.
Except not, because then they both be king.
Ooh.
So yeah, 7.5. Go ahead, Scott.
Just a little bit lower, I think, just to 7. Like I said, I like it more than the last 2. Not like, super high up the scale. I'm like, wow, that was kind of like an iconic episode. But it had its funny moments, and I do like seeing some development in like a personal nature for Talin. Probably a lot of what brought it down was frickin' Jennifer. But yeah, 7.
Go ahead, Ren.
Yeah, I would also say a 7. The Boimler plot did save it for me because it was so fun. and I enjoyed enough moments within the Mariner Jennifer plot that I could kind of just ignore it, the stuff that I didn't like. But if I pay too much attention to it, the relationship stuff is silly, and the like Nanite plot doesn't actually make any sense. But I did love the stuff with Talin, so that also like elevates it for me a little bit.
I guess I'll go 7.75. Since I graded the first couple of episodes a little higher than most people, I do think this was a step up. Excuse me. One thing that I kind of came to after last episode, though, was even though these feel a lot like just your average episodes, it also has that bittersweet feeling of like the last time you played with your friends before you all moved away. And it wasn't like an exceptionally amazing thing. It was just a regular day, but it's the last time you're going to do it. So that I'm kind of starting to get that feeling from this season too. We're not going to get average episodes much longer.
Just warming us up with a little nostalgia.
Yeah, that's that. Yeah, Windgrace trying to sway the vote with sentimentality. Yeah, I would also say a 7. I like the idea that not everybody in Starfleet, and I think this is Lower Decks ethos overall, that not everybody in Starfleet is a perfectly mature, evolved person. Because like TNG and TOS, you're meant to, everybody was like a role model for conduct, and here that's not really the case. And I enjoy that. I like that there's this messy, weird, really immature approach to ending a relationship. The A plot was really funny. I've always wondered, like, when is Star Trek ever going to sort of like examine its proximity to the military industrial complex? Because it is Starfleet, and there is, a military aspect to it, and there is risk involved in going on these missions, and like how can they handle that? With Lower Decks, of course, they're going to do it in the most ridiculous manner possible. And instead of like looking at it from a trauma-informed perspective, it was more like I'm traumatized by boredom because I'm so safe and so secure in my job that I can't stand it, and going on permanent vacation, which is really silly. So I enjoyed both for like what they say about Starfleet, but also like how these mechanics sort of work in Lower Decks sort of portion of the timeline. So I give it a 7.
Wow, mostly 7s across the board. That gives us an average of a 7.3.
I had to adjust that because Melanie ranked it as well. It bumped it up a little bit because she gave it a 9.
Yep. Yeah,
I was also doing the math in my head, so that might not be right.
It's got to be pretty close because 9's going to pull it up. Yeah, about there. We'll call it. That sounds good. 7.5.
That puts that ahead of the other two.
Yes,
I think so. Yeah.
We got those in like the 5s and 6s.
Yep.
I was curious about one thing. Where the XO tells Boimler that I wanted to bring you on this mission because, like, I wanted you to demonstrate your bravery or something. Like, it seemed like he was playing a little bit of a head game with Boimler. Does that seem like a good thing to do to somebody as neurotic as Boimler?
No, Ransom is a terrible away team lead, and
Yeah.
you've seen that consistently since season 1. unlike Captain Freeman, who went from just like a bad captain to actually at least being a mediocre one by last season,
Yeah.
Ransom has not changed one iota from season 1 Ransom.
Yeah, captured. Phillips and Rutherford almost got captured. Yeah.
Because, like, that seems really unethical, actually.
Not wrong.
I'm sure they really just needed a wiry guy.
Sometimes you need a wiry guy.
Oh,
Right, to like fit in ducks, and that's what away team missions mainly are. Like, his reasoning is very flawed because they're in a resort. Like, they're not on a ship where ducks are everywhere.
Yeah, but all he knows are muscles. Some guys don't have muscles, so they must be able to do other things.
Any
He's
final
not just
thoughts on
scary.
this episode?
I like the denobulin.
Oh, the skier.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Boimler just extended scream as he fell off that cliff.
He lives
Yeah,
in space. His bones are, what is they, hollow or something?
Like
Not
to
dense?
have
But he's not a
Yeah,
canary.
less dense.
the super advanced trail right next to the beginner's trail, cowards course or whatever it was. Like that was really bad planning.
Not actually horribly inaccurate though for how ski resorts are often designed. You can actually pretty easily find yourself on advanced terrain, like right near like a blue like medium level run. You can accidentally like keep going too far and be like, oh, there's only black diamonds out from here. Cool.
Oh God, that would be terrifying. So that was
I
really horror.
in very like Canadian form, I've been skiing for most of my life and I'm pretty good at it, but I did like destroy my ACL in high school. It is a questionable sport. It is exactly as ridiculous in terms of risk as it is portrayed in TV.
I have lived in the northernmost 48th state most of my life, and I have never been skiing. And
How
I
many
am totally
times
okay with that.
has the abominable snowman run out when you're almost at the end?
I love that game.
Never been
I-
skiing my entire life. No.
Yeah, I grew up here in Vermont and I don't ski. That's for rich people.
I've gone tubing. That's the closest.
Oh, heck yeah. Yeah, I've done that a lot of times.
I like skiing, but
Snowboarding was
it's
practically invented here.
a lot of there's just a lot of stuff that goes into it that's exhausting now, and it's way more expensive than it used to be. Like it's always been expensive, but now it's like outrageous. I do not go often.
Like I've been to a ski resort in the summertime, which is weird. There wasn't much to do.
Yeah, you're
Sounds
like,
like The
there's a
Shining."
cleared piece of hillside. Cool.
All right. Well, this has been fun. We actually kept it to just about an hour this week for once. So we'll be back next week with, I think we're at Starbase 80 ? So until then, I'd like to thank all of my co-hosts for joining me today and for all of you that tuned in. So until next time, live long.